Okay, let's unpack this. We're diving deep into a book that's really stirred things up. The Courage to be Disliked by Ichiro Kishimi and Fumitake Koga. It introduces the ideas of Alfred Adler.
Yeah, and it's fascinating how they do it. It presents Adlerian psychology, often mentioned alongside Freud and Jung, a major figure, but not as some dry textbook. It's actually a dialogue.
A conversation, right, between this skeptical young guy and a philosopher.
Exactly. Sometimes quite a heated conversation, actually. It really unpacks these complex ideas.
It feels like you're getting years of therapy insights sort of distilled into this chat. And the core promise, it's almost, well, confronting, isn't it?
It is the idea that you personally can change your life, find happiness right now.
Regardless of your past, your circumstances, it sounds radical.
Totally. It flips the script on the past, determining your future. That's central.
So our mission here in this deep dive is to walk through this dialogue, explore these core Adlerian concepts, and try to understand what they might really mean for you, for how you see things.
Okay, so let's start where the book does. It tackles this common way of thinking head on. The young man, he comes in believing, like many of us do, that his life is tough because of past stuff.
Right, because of trauma or his upbringing, maybe his environment.
Exactly. That's etiology, the idea that past causes dictate your present and your future.
And the philosopher just, well, pours cold water on that right away.
He does. Adlerian psychology, as presented here, completely rejects that historical determinism.
Yeah.
It's not about digging into why something happened back then that made you this way now. The focus is all on teleology.
Teleology. Okay, what does that mean exactly?
It means understanding the goal, the purpose behind what you're doing now. The argument is we aren't just pushed by past events, we're always actively moving toward goals we've set ourselves, often without even realizing it.
That feels really counterintuitive. I mean, we're so wired to think, this happened to me, so that's why I am this way.
Absolutely. And the book uses some pretty striking examples to make this shift clear. Think about someone who becomes a recluse, who stays inside all the time.
Okay.
The usual thinking might be, okay, what past trauma caused this withdrawal? But the Illyrian view is different. It asks, what's the goal? Maybe the goal is not going out.
So they want to not go out.
In a sense, yes. And they might create feelings like anxiety or fear as reasons, as justifications to stay inside. The feelings aren't the root cause. They're the tool used to achieve the goal.
The goal being maybe avoiding relationships or getting attention.
Could be either or something else. The point is, the feelings serve the present goal. The anxiety isn't something that just happened to them. It's something they are, in a way, using.
Wow. Okay. That's a different way to look at it.
It really is. Another big example is anger. The youth sees anger as, this uncontrollable force that just takes over.
Yeah, like you just lose it sometimes.
But the philosopher argues, no, anger is a tool, something you manufacture to achieve a goal. Often, it's about overpowering someone quickly, asserting your opinion without needing logic or discussion.
Like that famous example they use the mother yelling at her daughter.
Exactly. She's furious, shouting, then the phone rings. She answers, perfectly calm, polite, hangs up, and boom, the anger's back instantly.
Which shows it wasn't uncontrollable at all.
Precisely. It was a tool she put down and picked right back up. The goal was probably control in that relationship.
So the key takeaway here is, if you believe your past dictates your present, you're kind of stuck, right? Powerless.
You are, because the cause is locked away in the past, unchangeable. But if you see your behavior as serving a present goal, well, you can choose a different goal.
You regain your agency.
Exactly. Which leads to another really challenging idea in the book. This notion that you can actually choose to be unhappy.
Choose it. That sounds, I don't know, masochistic. Why would anyone choose that?
Well, not quite like that. The argument is that unhappiness isn't just bad luck. It often serves a hidden purpose, a good for you, even if it's not, morally good.
A good, like what?
Maybe the good is avoiding the stress of trying to change. Or maybe it gets you sympathy. Or it justifies not taking action. It serves some benefit for the self.
And this connects to their idea of lifestyle, doesn't it?
Yes, exactly. Your lifestyle isn't just your habits. It's your whole way of viewing the world and yourself. How you assign meaning. And the book says this is something you choose.
I chose my personality, my worldview, when?
Usually unconsciously, they argue, and quite early on, maybe around age 10. But the crucial part isn't when you chose it initially.
It's that I can choose again.
Absolutely. That's the empowering bit. If you feel stuck in an unhappy lifestyle, Adler says it's not because you lack the ability to change, it's a repeated decision, often unconscious, not to change. And that often comes down to a lack of courage.
Courage to face the unknown, maybe.
Yeah, courage to abandon the familiar, even if it's uncomfortable. The example of the aspiring novelist really drives this home.
Right, the person who never finishes their book.
They always have excuses, no time, no inspiration. But the Adlerian take, their real hidden goal is to avoid finding out if they're actually any good.
Ah. So by not finishing, they keep the possibility alive.
I could be great if I really tried. Exactly. They avoid potential criticism, potential failure. They lack the courage to put their work and themselves out there.
So the not finishing isn't just procrastination, it's an excuse that maintains the status quo.
Yes, it serves the purpose of avoiding that judgment. So the book puts it very directly. If you feel unhappy, it's probably not your circumstances or your past trauma that's the ultimate cause. It's the lifestyle you are currently choosing because it provides some kind of hidden benefit to you. Change means having the courage to decide to stop that lifestyle.
Okay, let's lean into that courage idea, because this is where the book makes a claim that feels, well, massive at first. Adler says all problems are interpersonal relationship problems.
All of them. It's a cornerstone of his psychology. Unhappiness fundamentally comes from our tangles with other people. But, and this is key, happiness also comes from those same relationships.
So it's all about relationships.
Pretty much. The youth in the dialogue, he's really struggling with self-dislike, intense self-loathing, and he just can't see how that could possibly be a goal. What purpose could hating yourself serve?
Yeah, that seems purely negative. How can not liking yourself be useful?
Well, the philosopher offers this insight. Self-dislike can actually function as a kind of shield, a strategy.
Yeah.
Specifically, it helps you avoid difficult interpersonal relationships.
Ah,
Think about it. If you're constantly focused on your own flaws, I'm too awkward, I'm not smart enough, no one would like me, you create the perfect excuse not to connect with others.
Over the wall. Don't get close, I'm damaged goods.
Exactly. It justifies your isolation. You avoid the vulnerability, the potential pain of getting involved with people.
That makes a disturbing amount of sense.
Doesn't it? The book uses the example of the student with the fear of blushing. She gets red easily and is terrified of it.
Okay.
The Adlerian interpretation isn't that she has a physiological issue, it's that she unconsciously fabricated this fear as an excuse to avoid confessing her feelings to someone she liked.
Because if she confessed, she might get rejected? Painful.
Right, the blushing becomes the reason she can't confess. It lets her avoid the risk of rejection, and more broadly, it allows her to stay dissatisfied, but safe. No need to risk changing things.
And just treating the symptom, the blushing, wouldn't work.
No, because the underlying goal of avoiding the relationship risk is still there. She likely just find another symptom or excuse. You have to address the goal.
That's a really key point about goals versus symptoms. Okay, so this leads us into how we actually navigate these relationships. The book talks a lot about feelings of inferiority.
Yes, and Adler has a unique take. He sees feeling inferior not as some kind of defect or illness, but as universal. Everyone feels it sometimes, a sense of falling short compared to an ideal or maybe compared to others.
Okay, so it's normal.
Completely normal. And actually, he sees it as a healthy driver. It's the stimulus for striving, for growth, what he calls the pursuit of superiority, which doesn't mean dominating others, just trying to improve yourself, move forward from where you are.
So feeling a bit inadequate can actually push you to get better.
It can be the engine, but it turns negative when it becomes an inferiority complex. That's when you start using those feelings as an excuse.
Like, oh, I can't possibly apply for that job because I don't have enough experience, instead of just trying.
Exactly. It's the because of A, my perceived flaw, I can't do B thinking. If only I were more confident, I'd ask them out. The book frames this complex not as a deep flaw, but as a simple lack of courage to act despite the feeling.
And the opposite of that.
Is the superiority complex. This is when someone feels intensely inferior inside, but they lack the courage for healthy striving, so they compensate outwardly.
Ow.
By boasting, maybe exaggerating achievements, constantly needing praise, trying to appear bigger or more important than they feel. It's a defense mechanism against deep-seated insecurity.
Okay. And tied into all this relationship stuff, the book argues really strongly that life is not a competition.
Yeah, this is huge in Adler. Seeing other people as competitors, as rivals you have to beat, makes real happiness impossible, he argues. Competition always creates winners and losers. It breeds hostility.
So what's the alternative view?
See others as comrades, people walking alongside you on the same flat plane, everyone striving forward on their own path at their own pace. Your goal isn't to be better than someone else, but just to be better than you were yesterday. Moving forward, yourself.
That's a much more collaborative, less stressful way to see things.
It is. And when we do see life as competition, relationships often degrade into power struggles
Right, where it stops being about finding the truth or the best solution.
and becomes purely about winning the argument. I am right, therefore you must be wrong. That's the only thing that matters.
Okay, so if you feel yourself getting pulled into one of those someone's trying to prove you wrong, make you submit. What's the Adlerian
Yeah.
advice?
Step down immediately. Don't react to the provocation. Don't engage in the fight. Just withdraw from the power struggle.
Because engaging just validates it, feeds the fire.
Exactly. You're confirming it is a power struggle by fighting back. And the book links this straight back to anger. Anger is often the weapon of choice in power struggles. It's fast, it can intimidate.
But not very constructive.
Not at all. The constructive tools are language, logic, calm discussion. But those require respect, patience, things that disappear in a power struggle. And just believing I am right can trap you in that struggle, making you blind to anything else.
This all flows into what might be the most famous idea from the book, the one in the title, the courage to be disliked.
Absolutely central. It's the key to freedom in Adler's view. The core idea is, if you want to live your own life truly authentically, you must stop seeking recognition and approval from others.
Oof, it's a tough one. We're social creatures. We naturally want to be liked, right?
We do. But Adler argues that constantly chasing recognition makes you a slave to other people's expectations. You end up living their life, trying to be who they want you to be instead of figuring out who you are. It's a kind of self-imposed prison.
So how do you break out? How do you stop caring so much what others think?
The practical tool the book offers is the separation of tasks. It's a way to analyze situations. You ask yourself, whose task is this? Is this my responsibility or is it theirs?
Okay, give us some examples from the book. This sounds important.
It is. So a child studying, whose task is that?
The child's.
Right. It's their job to learn to decide how much effort to put in. Parents constantly nagging or forcing or doing the work for them that's interfering in the child's task. It often comes from a place of control, not genuine help.
So as a parent, my task isn't to make them study, but maybe provide support if they ask, or create a good environment.
Exactly. Offer help, offer resources, but the decision, the action, the consequences, those belong to the child. Another one, choosing your career or your partner, that's your task.
Right.
If your parents disapprove, their disapproval, their feelings about your choice, that's their task to manage. You don't have to live your life trying to manage their emotions about your choices.
Okay, that's clarifying. And how does this apply directly to being disliked?
Whether someone likes you or dislikes you, that's their task. It's their judgment, their feeling, based on their values and perspective. Your task is to live your life according to your principles, choose your path.
So I can't control if someone dislikes me, and I shouldn't even try.
Trying to control it is futile and leads to misery. Trying to get everyone to like you means you have to constantly shift, maybe lie, betray your own values to meet conflicting expectations. You end up living inauthentically.
So real freedom isn't just, like, doing whatever you feel like. Impulse.
No, the book explicitly contrasts that. Acting on impulse is like being a stone rolling downhill. You're just subject to gravity, desires, reactions. True Adlerian freedom is like pushing yourself uphill, making conscious choices based on your goals and principles, even when it's hard, even when others might not approve. That takes courage, the courage to be disliked.
And the book says something really empowering here about always holding the interpersonal relationship cards. What did that mean?
It connects back to teleology focusing on goals. It means you always have the power to decide how you engage in a relationship, regardless of the other person's behavior or the past history.
How so?
If you blame the past, say, my relationship with my father is terrible because he was critical 10 years ago, you're giving him the power. You're saying his past actions determine the present state. The card is in his hand.
Okay.
But if you use teleology, you might ask, what is my current goal in maintaining this distance or conflict? Maybe my goal is, I don't want to risk getting hurt again, or I don't want to make the effort. Recognizing your own goal puts the power, the relationship card, back in your hand. You can then choose a different goal, like, I want to try to understand him better. Regardless of how he acts, the choice is yours.
That shifts the locus of control entirely back to you. Okay, so if all problems are interpersonal and freedom involves not needing approval, where does actual happiness come from? The book talks about needing to belong.
Yes, a fundamental human desire. the sense of belonging, feeling it's okay for me to be here, feeling part of a community. But the book is careful here. This isn't about passively being accepted or constantly seeking proof that you belong.
Yeah, it's not about getting validation.
No. True belonging comes from active commitment to the community, making a contribution.
And this contrasts sharply with people obsessed with recognition.
Very sharply. The book argues that people who are constantly seeking recognition are, ironically, deeply self-centered. They're not really interested in others as people. They're only interested in how others view them, how others can serve there. I give them praise, status, validation.
So they're using others.
In a way, yes. The antidote, the path to real belonging and happiness, is a perspective shift.
From what to what?
From attachment to self, constantly worrying about how you appear, how you feel, if you're like to concern for others, a genuine interest in contributing to the well-being of the community we're part of.
And realizing you are not the center of the world.
Exactly. You're the protagonist of your own life, yes, but you're just one member of the larger community. The book uses the image of a globe versus a map. A map has one center. A globe has infinite potential centers. You're one point among many equals.
Thinking you're the center leads to expecting others to revolve around you.
Right. And when they inevitably don't, you feel slighted, betrayed, and see them as enemies. But if you see yourself as part of the community, your focus shifts to, how can I contribute? And that's where you find your place. The book also suggests remembering you belong to multiple communities: family, work, neighborhood, humanity. If one feels difficult, you still have a place in others. You're never truly alone or without a place to belong.
This shift in perspective also changes how we view praise and rebuke, right?
Completely. Adler sees both praise, good job, and rebuke, that was bad, as forms of manipulation based on vertical relationships.
Vertical, meaning unequal.
Yeah, like a person with power judging someone without. It implies superiority. I am capable of judging you. Both praise and rebuke reinforce that hierarchy.
So what's the alternative in a horizontal, equal relationship?
Gratitude. A simple thank you. It's not an evaluation, it's an expression of appreciation for their help or contribution. It builds connection based on respect. And importantly, it gives the other person a genuine feeling of being useful.
Ah, usefulness, contribution. That seems to be the core of happiness in this book.
It absolutely is. The book states clearly, the only way to gain a true awareness of your own worth is through the subjective feeling that I am beneficial to the community or I am of use to someone.
But does it have to be like a big, obvious contribution? Something heroic? The youth questions this.
Great point. And the philosopher clarifies, no, it doesn't have to be contribution on the level of acts. It's enough to feel useful on the level of being. Meaning your mere existence, your presence has value.
Right.
Just by being part of the community, you contribute. He gives the example of someone bedridden. Their existence itself can be a source of joy or connection for others. They have worth just by being.
Okay, but the youth pushes back again.
Yeah.
If just being gives you worth, why isn't everyone happy?
And the philosopher's answer is very direct. Happiness is the feeling of contribution. They are one and the same. You aren't happy and then you feel you contribute. The feeling of contribution is happiness itself. The challenge lies in subjectively feeling that your being is useful.
So, going back to seeking recognition, people do that because it's like a shortcut, an easy way to get that feeling externally. Someone tells you you're useful.
Exactly. It's the path of least resistance. But it's fragile. The book argues that if you cultivate a genuine internal sense of contribution, that deep feeling that you are useful, you do belong, just by participating, then the need for external validation, for recognition, just fades away.
It becomes irrelevant.
Yeah. When you have community feeling, self-acceptance, and confidence in others, you don't need praise anymore.
That's a powerful goal. Okay, lastly, the book strongly urges us to live fully in the here and now. It criticizes postponing life.
Calls it a life lie, this idea that your real life will start later. I'll be happy when I retire. I'll pursue my passion once the kids are grown. Things will be good after I finish this project. Seeing the present as just boring preparation.
Making the current moment meaningless, just a stepping stone.
Right, which makes life feel like a drag. Instead, the book introduces the concept of energia. Yeah, it's an Aristotelian idea the philosopher uses. It means living life as if it were a series of complete moments, like dancing. When you dance, there isn't a final destination you're trying to reach. The dancing itself is the point. The process is the fulfillment.
Like a journey isn't just about arriving, the whole trip is the journey. Or climbing a mountain. The climbing is the activity, not just standing on the summit for 5 minutes.
Precisely. The focus shifts entirely away from some future endpoint. You live each moment earnestly, conscientiously. Do what you can do right now. Your life isn't a line aiming for a future point. It's a series of points, each lived fully.
And to navigate this moment-by-moment living, to stay oriented without getting lost in just living for the now, the book gives us that guiding star.
Yes, to live freely, to avoid losing your way, the ultimate compass, the guiding star, is contribution to others.
So whatever is happening in the moment,
Whatever challenges arise, even if people misunderstand you or dislike you for your choices, as long as you keep that orientation, am I moving in a direction that contributes somehow to others? You won't get lost.
you can live freely, choose your path, because your sense of worth and direction comes from the internal compass of contribution, not from external approval.
Exactly. It ties everything together.
That really is a fundamentally optimistic and empowering message, even if embracing some of these ideas takes serious courage. So just to recap the main threads we've pulled from this deep dive into the courage to be disliked. Your life isn't predetermined by your past causes, etiology. You choose it based on your present goals, teleology. All problems, and indeed happiness, are rooted in interpersonal relationships. True freedom comes from the courage to be disliked, separating your tasks from others' reactions, letting go of the need for recognition. This allows you to develop community feeling, shifting from self-focus to contributing to others. Your worth comes from that subjective feeling of contribution, not external validation. And happiness is found in living fully in the here and now, like a dance, guided by that star of contribution.
And crucially, remember the book's insistence. It's not about ability to change. You can change. It's about the courage to make the decision and take the first step.
Which leads to a powerful thought to leave you with, reflecting on that guiding star image. Adlerian psychology holds up a guiding star as a grand compass pointing to a life of freedom. It is contribution to others. No matter what moments you are living or if there are people who dislike you, as long as you do not lose sight of the guiding star of I contribute to others, you will not lose your way and you can do whatever you like.
So the question to ponder is this. If contribution to others is the compass, what's one small thing, maybe just one tiny step you could do today, right now, in this moment, that aligns with that guiding star? Something you can do freely, regardless of whether anyone approves or even notices.